Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, November the 20th, 2023. It is currently 10:34 p.m. Central Time, and I am coming to you live from the Theology Central studio located right here in Abilene, Texas. Now, I know it's been a long time. It feels since I've been sitting in front of this microphone and broadcasting. And there's been a lot going on. I haven't felt well. I won't get into all of that. And I've also just been doing a lot of kind of contemplating, thinking about what to do with the podcast as I move into 2024. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But the first thing that has me broadcasting right now is, I don't know, a couple of hours ago, my MacBook Pro did an update. And it changed everything. Now, probably changed everything for the good, but everything looks different. Everything is different. My sound settings were completely off. Everything was off. So I've been adjusting and trying to make sure that everything is back to correct and that everything is okay. So I'm going to first check the audio levels here, make sure everything sounds okay. Once I feel comfortable with that, then I'll give you just kind of a quick update. Dealing with, some more price changes are coming. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. So, unfortunately, but we're going to do some things to try to fix that. We will see, but I'll tell you all about that and some of the things I've been thinking about in regards to what I do moving forward, what I do moving forward. And I still have not come to a definitive conclusion, but first let me listen really quick and see how we sound here. So we'll talk about... Okay, that sounds good. That was on the Church One app. Now I'm going to go open up my Spreaker app, if I can find it really quick. Where's my Spreaker app? I have too many apps on my iPad. Where in the world is it? It's got to be somewhere. Where is the Spreaker app? Okay, where is it? How come there's a Spreaker app. All right, there we go. Go to Theology Central. There's the podcast. It says we're currently live. And how do we sound? Okay, where is it? I think we sound okay. I'm going to wait. There's a Spreaker app. All right, there we go. So we sound fine on both platforms. It looks like we're okay. I'm going to check a couple of other things really quick. Make sure everything is working correctly. All right. Okay. It appears everything is good. So that's great. We've got all that fixed. That's wonderful. I just wanted to get that over with and get that resolved and make sure that the sound was okay. Now, here's the situation. Over the last week or so, it's really been going on for probably a little over a month. Maybe I can't remember. I started doing a number of broadcast kind of talking about the podcast and increase in prices and what are we going to do and can we get enough support to make the podcast basically, can stand alone financially. What's the options? What can we do? And we talked about a lot of that. And then I was like, okay, I'm tired of talking about it. I'm just going to press forward. But even though when I kind of decided I'm not going to talk about the financial aspects, just trying to make some decisions. So here's just how I've been thinking. All right, here's what I've been thinking. I've been thinking about, okay, I have done now well over 3,000 episodes of podcasting, well over 3,000. Probably if you put everything together that I've done, I'm probably well over 4,000 episodes. That represents close to 4,000 hours of sitting in a chair in front of a microphone talking about doctrine, theology, current events. That is a lot of my life. Spending time trying to make a difference, trying to help, not only trying to help you, trying to help myself, right? Working out my own theological issues and working out my own struggles and trying to be beneficial to someone. That's a lot of work. There's no way to get around it, all right? And of course, everything we have done, we've never put anything behind a paywall. We've never charged anyone. We don't do subscriptions. We don't do any of that. And none of our content has any commercials. Now, we did do a brief experiment, very brief experiment with the Bible Pop Quiz podcast, just on Spreaker. On Church One and other platforms, there were no commercials, but on Spreaker, we did. I saw some positives in it. I saw some negatives in it. Oh man. Then what I have to do is try to constantly turn on the microphone going, please listen to us on the Spreaker app, because that's where the amount of money we would make doubles by 20%. And I'm like, I'm not going to spend half of my life trying to focus on, you got to broadcast, but you got to spend 10, 15 minutes of every broadcast trying to get people to do this or to do that or to do this or to do that in order to make some money off the podcast to pay for itself. Forget making any money, just trying to pay for itself. So then I'm like, I'm going to give that up. So then I kind of stepped back and started looking at it from a much more this kind of perspective. And let me just throw out some ideas. How many negative emails do I get versus how many positive? Now, you may say, well, that's a ridiculous way to look at it. But at some point, you have to think, how many times do you get criticized, complaints, that, versus people saying thank you? So I was kind of balancing that out. How many, and I looked at it from participation versus non-participation, because my podcast is very much a podcast that calls for active participation, right? So think of much of what we try to do. It's like, hey, do this, turn in your work, send me this, talk about this, it's always calling for active participation. So when you have negative versus positive emails, typically the negative went out. If you don't know that, the negative comments typically a far greater number than positive. Participation, based off the number of people listen to an episode, the participation is far. I mean, it probably doesn't even make up 1 or 2% of all the people who listen to an episode who are participating. They may be participating, but you don't know. So then you look at that. Then you look at time, energy, work, right? And there's a lot that goes into it. And you're like, okay, so you put all of that together, then you have to ask yourself a really big question. What are you really accomplishing? I mean, what are you really doing? Are you really doing something? Because it's always easy to convince yourself, right? Oh, I'm doing this. And look, we made it to the top 5% of all podcasts, on the podcasting charts, top 5% of all podcasts in the world. Look at that. Look, you can pat yourself on the back and go, woo, look at me. But then you go, that's a number. What does it actually mean in a tangible way, in a practical way? And you don't really know what it means in a tangible or practical way, right? You don't really know. And so then you'll be like, okay, well, I'm just not going to broadcast for this many days or this many days. And then, well, are people even going to notice? So you really start kind of getting into your head, questioning it. So while I'm sitting there trying to figure all of this out, is it really valuable? Am I really accomplishing something? What should I do? Should I change this? Should I change that? What could we do better? What could we do worse? Well, I'm just sitting there trying to figure all of that out, probably getting in my own mind and overthinking it. But I'm just being honest with you. That's what I started thinking. Then, well, we received notice of another price increase. Okay. So everybody knows that to broadcast on the Sermons 2.0 app, the Church One app, that's going to go from $50 a month to $60 a month. And that price change happens, I think, at the beginning of the year. All right. So that gives us $60 a month. We were already paying to be on Spreaker and on all the different places it sends the broadcast. And well, it's our podcast hosting site. It's the thing that sends our podcast everywhere. That's $140. All right. So you take 60, 140, that's 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, $200 a month. All right. So you take $200 a month. That doesn't count our pod page. That doesn't count any other expenses. There's other things we have to pay for. That's just $200 a month just to broadcast. That doesn't cover that doesn't cover anything else. It doesn't cover if I'm buying a new microphone, paying for this. That's just $200 a month. And so you're like, wow, can we bring in $200 a month to pay for that? Can we? Can we even accomplish that? Well, Spreaker is taking what we currently pay for our plan, and I'm going to pull it up really quick, and there's no way they're doing this. There's no way. Our current plan is called the Publisher Pro plan. Publisher Pro plan. And I'm looking at the new pricing. And currently they have it set for $250 a month. $250. That would be a jump from $140 to $250. That's insanity, okay? That's total insanity. Like, that's ridiculous. So, and the only other plans they give us the broadcaster plan, okay, which, okay, that would take away a lot of our things that we need. So that's not good. They have another one called the Anchorman plan, which is what we're going to try, so here's what I've had to do. I've had to cancel Spreaker. And once the cancellation date arrives, then what I'm supposed to do is then I can't change it right now. It's really weird. So I have to kind of wait until it converts over to what they call the free plan. Well, the free plan, it could wipe out all of our content. So I'm really, really concerned because there's like no storage for the free plan. So I'm hoping we don't lose anything. And then what we're going to do is as soon as that supposedly switches over, then we're going to go back and try to sign up for the Anchorman plan. That's what we're going to try to do, which would then actually reduce our price from $140 to $50. So then if you take 60 and 50, we're then at $110 a month. We would go from 200 to 110. That's a massive amount of savings. So that's what we're going to shoot for. That would be, we would hopefully we could get then close. We could get close to having enough support for 110. You think we could be able to pull off that, but you don't know. So we're going to wait. It's right now. I have chatted and messaged and back and forth with Spreaker for days now, trying to get some answers. I don't even know what country they're located. Trying to get answers with them is very difficult. Their customer support is just so slow, mainly because of the time difference, but it's not very helpful. So we're going to hope. This is what we're hoping for. And I may not know until somewhere in December, which is very frustrating. But somewhere in December, we are hoping that we're going to go from $200 a month down to $110. That would be great. I would like to get it at 100 or even below 100 is what I would like to do. Because that would be great. And then hopefully that maintains all of everything would still go to YouTube, all of the podcasting apps, everything would be on Church One, all of the apps we would be covered and still be able to live broadcast. That is the plan. That is what we're going to attempt to do. Pray, hope that works out because, that would be a big burden taken off me, not having to try to worry about. So, okay, long term, how does this work? How does this work? How does this work? How does this work? So, I'm still struggling with what am I really accomplishing with the podcast? Still don't know. Obviously, there's people out there who do say positive things and say, hey, the podcast is worth something. But again, you have to look at the numbers, right? When you're in the top 5% of all podcasts, you look at how many downloads and streams that represents. And then you have to look at the number of people who you hear from. Now, of course, that's just the way it works. A lot of times people who have something negative to say are much more likely to speak up than those who have something positive to say. That's okay. That you kind of have to expect that. But then you're left with a little bit of, not always, but I guess I've witnessed this. So this happens in ministry. I think sometimes in ministry, the person preaching, the person teaching, the person broadcasting can begin to convince themselves of how successful they really are, how important they really are, how much they're really accomplishing, how good they really are at teaching. And they really kind of start believing their own hype. And in some ways you admire that confidence. You admire that like, hey, I'm doing something worthwhile because they're more motivated. They're more committed. But sometimes you kind of look around going, I don't think it's all what you think it's. I think you're misunderstanding it. I don't ever want to be the person sitting around going, man, yeah, I'm doing great work. I'm doing when reality, you're fooling yourself. So you don't want to be there. On the other hand, you don't want to be so the other extreme where you're like, oh, I'm not accomplishing anything. It's a waste of time. I'm a failure. It's pathetic. You don't want to be there either. You want to have a healthy balance where you can be realistic and acknowledge your weakness, your failures, or struggles. At the same time, be willing to acknowledge your strength and the positives. I know the one positive of this podcast is very few people are producing the amount of content we produce. Whenever on a normal, I mean, obviously I've been taking a kind of a step back recently, but on a normal month, the number of hours of content, very few podcasts can even come close to doing that. Most of the time on a typical month, not when I'm taking a step back, someone emails me and they want something broadcast. Usually within hours, I'm doing a broadcast about it. Usually within hours, I'm broadcasting it and answering it. So like they almost have instantaneous access to say, hey, can you talk about this? Hey, can you cover this? Can you answer this question? And boom, instantaneously, if they have the Spreaker app or the Church One app, they get a notification that I'm going live and immediately answering their question. Very few podcasts do that. So I do know we have some strengths. Quantity, very few people top that. Direct access so that you almost get an instantaneous answer. Very few podcasts provides that. Our content is available on every platform on earth. Very few podcasts can accomplish or can even state that. So now everything else, that's up to that's up to the listener. It's very subjective. Everything else is subjective, right? I like it. I hate it. I agree. I disagree. What do you do? Well, what do you do? What do you do? I do think the variety and what we do is worthwhile, but that's kind of where we are. I'm sitting here shocked to look at that the plan that we currently have. I'm looking, I could take a screenshot of it if you need to see it. $250 a month. There's no way. There's no way that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. So, and again, now I know a lot of people, I'll get emails going, well, just get rid of that and go to something else. Well, I have to still look, I can do that, right? I could just drop down to Church One and Sermons 2.0, I could just drop to that, right? Okay, I could. And that would only be $60 a month. But guess what? All of our podcast feeds are connected to Spreaker. Now, you can definitely try to move the feeds over to another site, and you can try to do that. And maybe we have to do that. But I do like the ability to be broadcasting live on two platforms. And here's the reason why. If I'm broadcasting live on two platforms, and these two platforms do not have any conflict with messing up the microphone, they both work perfectly with one another, so I can broadcast live. It's a redundancy that saves me, because how many times, if you've been listening to this podcast, something will go wrong when we're broadcasting live on the Church One app. And that it will disconnect, but it doesn't disconnect on Spreaker. And guess what? We have the recording of Spreaker ready to go, right? And sometimes Spreaker will mess up, and then we'll have the recording from Church One because it didn't mess up. Having that redundancy saves much time, and it's wonderful. It's great because for me, I don't have to do anything else, and for you, it's instantaneous that the minute the live broadcast is over, now that very recording on whichever platform we got the correct recording from is immediately available to you without any delay. Now, of course, that is me pretending that the broadcast was so important that you needed to hear it instantaneous. But you want it to be that way. So that's where we are. I'm waiting and seeing. I've asked some questions. Hey, if we switch our plan from this to what they call the Anchorman plan. That's what they call it. Current price is $50 a month. Now they have a Black Friday sale, but I can't get the Black Friday sale because my billing cycle comes up after the Black Friday sale, which is so frustrating. It's like, and they're like unwilling to work with you in any way, shape, or form. They're not like, hey, you've been broadcasting with us for like years. Hey, we got you. We'll let you have the Black, like there's just no working with me. But, if we can, we're going to get the Anchorman plan. That'll be $50. The Sermons 2.0, Church 1 will be $60, and then we'll be at $110 a month, which is a dramatic decrease. And we have at least we have some listeners who do support, and which would get us pretty close to that. Would get us very close to that, pretty close to covering it. So if we can switch to Anchorman, we're there. And if we don't lose any of our ability, then we're there. We're almost there with just one or two people who support us. We're almost there. So it would be great to go, hey, you could bring in, you're bringing in this much above and beyond what it cost. Because and anyone who's ever listened to this broadcast knows typically when we have more coming in, then guess what we do? Book giveaways. We were at one time providing digital curriculum for people around the world. Because that cost us money. So when the money doesn't come in, you have to take away, we had to get rid of the digital curriculum. Like sooner or later, you got to start pulling things, and you can't be doing book giveaways, and you can't be doing things like that because, you don't have the ability. But I think I feel a little bit hopeful. I'm hoping that Spreaker works this out and we can save that amount of money from 200 to 110. That's it's taken a little bit of work to hopefully pull all of this off, but I think we're close, and we will update you. Probably won't know till, in fact, I can tell you. Let me do something. I'm gonna log in really quick. Okay, I'm gonna log in. Give me 1 second, and I can tell you exactly, and you can hear my voice is almost gone. I will be able to tell you in just a second here. Give me 1 second. All right. Still, I'm looking at that $250 a month. No wonder they want you to monetize your podcast, because you got to monetize your podcast to be able to pay them. All right. That's why. Okay, here we go. I got to get to where are... No. Hang on. Let me see here if I can get to our account. Hang on. Where is it? I'm looking. It's hard to find here on the... Oh, that's not helpful. Okay, hang on. I don't want that. Where in the world is my... This is not helpful. Okay, no, I don't want that. Well, I wanted to show you or tell you what the exact date would be when our billing cycle comes up. I may have to be on an actual computer to look at this, because this screen is not helping me at all. At all. Yeah. Nothing. Not giving me absolutely anything. Okay, so that's frustrating. Yeah, I wanted to get to our account settings, but I can't get to our account settings anywhere on here. So I don't know why. Oh, there it is, account settings. I apologize. It took me forever to find it. Okay. Oh, no, that's not what I needed. Yeah, so yeah, that's not what we needed. So I was going to look for Oh, here we go. Now I can find it. Okay, December the 18th. December the 18th. I apologize for that long delay. December the 18th, that is when that's when the billing cycle comes to an end. And when that billing cycle comes to an end, then we'll find out exactly what happened. Yeah, because on November the 20th, on November the 17th, we were charged for our monthly bill. So that's why we have to wait till December. So we've canceled when that billing cycle ends, then hopefully at that point we can switch to the other plan, not lose any of our capabilities, and then save ourselves a whole lot of money. That's the plan. So that's what's going on the Theology Central podcast. Now, moving forward, it's a holiday week, right? Thanksgiving holiday. So I know on Thursday, like there's always a part of me that like, man, I should just spend all day on Thanksgiving broadcasting is what I should do, right? But then you realize nobody's going to be really listening. There will be some people that you could possibly very much help because they're alone or the holidays are horrible for them. So actually you could be very beneficial. But then, so I don't know, you always struggle with that. But you also know people are going to be traveling and so sometimes in your mind, you think if they're traveling, they would want to turn into hour after hour of broadcasting. But the reality is they probably don't want to listen to the podcast. So I always struggle with what to do on holiday weeks. Anyway, I always do. I always struggle because I've seen it be like you can spend hours and then you're like, man, the numbers are like 90% decrease. It's crazy. And then when the people come back to their normal routine, there's a high probability they're not going to go back and listen to everything they miss. They're going to just pick up where they left off. So then a lot of those episodes are throwaway. So I don't know what I'm going to do this week. There's a high probability I'll probably be doing very little broadcasting. But the minute I say that, then I will be like, you know what, I'm going. And so I'm not going to make any definitive plans, but I am still waiting and kind of just contemplating. What do I want to do? What are we going to accomplish? What can we accomplish? What can we do? As we go into what I believe 2024 will be absolutely I think it's going to be a crazy year. So do I want to be sitting in front of a microphone, kind of taking us through 2020, as we work through 2024 together, I don't know. We'll have to see. But that's kind of what's happening. Major update to the MacBook Pro, which does everything seems to be sounding okay on all platforms. That seems to be good. And then the pricing change, told you about that. We're trying to work around it so that we can actually save money. And we hope that we can announce that it will, that we're much closer to being able to, that the podcast is, perfectly okay financially. And that would be great. Right now we're still good, but I'm just thinking long-term. What does it look out long-term? So we've tried to be very responsible and proactive, right? Because I would rather be proactive than reactive, right? It's better to be proactive and say, here's what we're trying to do than being reactive going, in 24 hours, this podcast no longer exists. So if you want to save an episode, you better download them today because tomorrow they're all gone. Instead of doing that, I'd rather be proactive. And it's frustrating though. It is frustrating because I get emails, especially this time of year, from every ministry in the world. And they're trying to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, 500,000, 400,000. I think one was trying to raise $1 million. And you're like, you put out one program a day that's 30 minutes long. What in the world? And you're like, I don't understand. But so then you're kind of like, what am I doing? What am I doing then? Well, what am I doing? But we're going to work through all of that and we're going to hopefully have a good plan and we'll keep you updated probably this week. If I'm broadcasting, just see it as, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think he was going to be broadcasting. And if you don't, you know why. And then we'll see. There will be 4 days in December. There'll be no broadcasting because big family get together. So there'll be none for 4 days. And then outside of that, well, then it's kind of a race to the end of 2023 and hello 2024. And we'll just see what that looks like as we move forward. Thanks for listening. Everyone have a great night. That's the latest. Hopefully everything sounds okay. I'm getting ready to go check everything and see if it did. And if it did, great. So everyone have a great night. God bless.